Welcome to Solo Pro Radio. It's the only resource for self-employed professionals to grow their business. I'm Barbara Saunders, the Solo Pro Business Master, and I help self-employed professionals harness what they know to help them grow. I have custom-fit programs focused specifically on helping solo pros build lucrative, solo-based businesses in today's technology-driven global economy. Swing by my website, soloprosuccess.com, and pick up your free Income Accelerator Success Kit. Today, my guest on Solo Pro Radio is marketing strategy architect Ely Delaney. Ely is the co-founder of Your Marketing University, as well as a trainer, a speaker, and an author. His passion is helping small businesses learn to market their businesses in an ever-changing world and marketplace without having to spend big bucks on large marketing agencies. Ely provides monthly marketing tips, tricks, and ideas to help any small business owner grow their business through easy-to-follow video, audio, and article training that keeps their costs down. Everything he offers is designed so you can take action on any of his marketing ideas in under 1 hour. It's simple, easy, and cost-effective. Ely has a new book out, which we'll talk about, that he's done with his business partner, Cindy Clemens, called Marketing Tidbits, 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Grow Your Business. Welcome, Ely.
Thank you so much, Barbara. It's a pleasure to be here. I have so much fun with this kind of stuff.
I am so excited to dig in and really kind of talk a little bit about what you're doing, what's coming up, and kind of how you got started. You know, I think our listeners would really love to know how you came to be in your own business. Could you share a little bit of your background and your story with us?
I can definitely share it. I will try to keep it as short as possible because it's actually kind of a long story. Years and years ago, I actually started off as a stagehand in the rock and roll business and ended up in Arizona, did that for a while. I met some amazing performers, musicians in all kinds of areas, everything from like Ozzy Osbourne and Metallica to, Smothers Brothers and Wayne Newton. I mean, everything in between. And I had a lot of fun with it. But then at one point, it was time for me to move on because of the simple fact that my boss at the time had some recreational habits that affected my paycheck. And I'm sure you can kind of fill in the blanks on that one. So from there, I got out of that and got into working for a small computer shop in the area where I lived. And pretty much I got in there building computers just, as a tech. It started off with the bottom of the line side of just having a job and started working with them. We were also an internet provider, so I started learning the ins and outs of how servers worked, especially in the Unix system and as an internet service provider, basically like a competitor to AOL. And from there, learned the ins and outs, had fun with it, and we had one major problem that drove me nuts was that we had a website, but it was awful. It was designed by the manager at the time, and he had used the very first beta version of Microsoft Publisher. I mean, to kind of give you an idea, they actually sent us that as a fact that we were a reseller for their stuff, so they gave us a beta so we could play with it, and they actually sent it to us on floppy disks. That tells you kind of an idea of how old this is, right? So the website was, it was a template. The problem was that, like most websites, you have your home page, your services, about us, contact, typical buttons that you see on a website. The big problem was that we also had page 5, page 6, page 7, and page 8 because he couldn't figure out how to take those extra buttons off the template. That's how bad it was. Yeah, it was really embarrassing. So I decided, okay, somebody's got to fix this because this is embarrassing. And so I started to, learn HTML. I also picked up a copy of Photoshop. This was back in Photoshop 3, and fell in love with design. And from there, I basically decided at one point I really wanted to start my own web design business. And so I went with that point, started that originally out of my house, and grew that business to, at one point, having 5 employees, having an office, and we were closing 3 to 5 contracts a week, just totally exploding. And then I decided that I didn't really like it anymore. I got burned out. I got tired of it. Didn't like having employees. Didn't like having having to be at the office every day. And started moving into the marketing world because that's how I grew that business. Was I learned marketing. When I first started out, I had like 2 clients. Those 2 clients, I love me to death, but the problem was that they were not paying all my bills. I needed more. And so I learned marketing from picking up books at bookstores. and realized that I love marketing after all these years. And that is essentially how I evolved into deciding that I wanted to teach other entrepreneurs, because I remembered when I first started out, I had no clue how to market myself. I knew that I was a really good designer. It was a talent, or it was a skill that I had. It was more of a natural talent type of thing that I had, and I was really good at it. The problem was that if I was going to make a go for it and actually, do this without getting another job, I had to learn marketing. And so that's how I started in the marketing world. And when I decided that I was burned out and tired of being a web designer, I was like, what can I do that I really love? And I said, well, I love marketing. And that's how Your Marketing University got started. And we're going on about 6 years now.
Well, that really interests me. I started out as a designer as well, and I kind of have always found marketing to kind of be this, kind of amorphous, shifting thing out there. Let me ask you, how have you seen things change over the years? You've kind of had this interesting background. What are some of the trends and the changes that you've seen come along?
The funny thing about it is that today's marketing has actually reverted just using new tools. And what I mean by that is that at one point, if you think back old days, way before the internet,
right.
You look at the fact of people. If you decided you're going to buy some meat to cook for dinner, you went to Bob the Butcher, and you went to Bob because you knew Bob, and he was the staple guy in town. You knew him. Chances are you probably went to school with him. Right now, your kids and his kids go to school, and you're going to go buy a whole bunch of meat because you're going to have a barbecue next weekend. And guess what? Bob's going to get a bunch of that back because you invited him, and he's going to come eat a bunch of it. Okay, so that's the way it used to be. I mean, we were in a very community-based, small world type concept. Well, then everything shifted. Probably about between the 80s and the 90s, everything shifted to big corporate image. And so it got to the point where even though I was a small company, chances are if you've been in business for any decent amount of time, especially 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you probably went through this as well, where you had your 800 number, you went to your website, and the About Us was very corporate-y. It had this big fancy mission statement, and it had a picture of a big glass building. Well, okay, I had that on my website, and most of us did at one point, because we want to portray the image of a big corporation, even though we may be a one-man or one-woman show. And so what ended up happening was that everybody had to have this big corporate feel, and then everybody realized we don't like this because we don't buy from big corporations. We don't trust big corporations. We buy from people. And that was kind of what really opened my eyes when I realized that was the shift. Things were going backwards. We have new technology. We have Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the social media things and all the latest, greatest, cool tools that are out there. But people have gone back to that little bit more regressed way of thinking about doing business, which is, I'm going to do business with you because I trust you. And you and I sat down, we've had a cup of coffee, or maybe we had lunch, and we got to know each other. And I know about you, you know about me. I mean, you and I just the other day, we had a conversation about our dogs, right? Well, that is, that's something that there's connection there. That's affinity. And see, what's happened is that the world has changed where we have all these great tools, but so many people are focusing on the tools as the latest, greatest thing when they forget about how marketing really works. All marketing is influencing somebody to make a decision that will make them better. That's really all it is. If you're selling whatever your product or service is, if you've got their best interest in mind and you're trying to say, if you buy my widget, it's going to help save you time, save you money, make you money, whatever that is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of the major draw factors that people go after. But if you can basically know in your heart that you want this product because you know it's going to add value to their lives, that's the connection. That's the community side of it. It's the one-on-one feeling. I mean, nobody buys an iPod because it's made by Apple. They make an iPod because it adds value to their lives. and people have had a connection with Steve Jobs for many years, and unfortunately things are kind of starting to hear some shifts. I just saw something on Facebook earlier today about the new CEO starting to ruffle some feathers, and hopefully he doesn't go overboard with what he does, because he'll lose a lot of share in what they're doing.
It's that community. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Okay, cool. And that's, I mean, does that make sense in that aspect? It's really the most fundamental idea is all you're doing is just simplifying it down to how can I communicate and influence people to help them? Because that's all we're here for. I'm going to go with the fact that everybody listening to this call wants to help people, wants to add value. If you don't, you're in the wrong business. Go find something else. But if you're there to
I totally agree with you. Today, it's really, I think, a benefit to be a solo for that very reason. Mm-hmm. So many people have really gotten burned by, the big nameless, faceless corporations, and they do want that personal, individual touch. So I think that it's a great benefit to be a solo.
Yeah. There's that connection with real people. And the great thing about it is now we have all these technology tools that give us the ability to connect with people on a whole different level and all over the world. I mean, I've got clients and friends that I've made from just connecting with people on Facebook all over the world. I mean, one of my best friends is in New Zealand. I've got a client in Australia. We've got actually students that are in 6 different countries, and it's all because of the aspect of internet-based marketing, but most of that is based around connecting with these people.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. There is definitely this sort of backlash of overwhelm, I know, for a lot of our listeners with these tools. Mm-hmm. And how do I use them? And you mentioned Facebook and the time and all of that. Let's talk a little bit about how do you manage, and I really want to get in and talk about a little bit about your business model too, but since we're kind of talking about these tools and creating community and relationships, let me ask you just for our listeners, because I know their little heads are exploding when they start about the overwhelm, all these tools and all these different ways. You've got video and you've got social media and you've got, all these different channels. What's, maybe one tip you can give them to kind of short-circuit that overwhelm right at the beginning of our conversation here?
Oh, definitely. The key with it is don't get sucked in. And I'm going to just use like Facebook as an example, and every one of them is a little bit different. They all have different changes, and the way you talk on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, any of these things that are a little bit different in each one. But as a whole, we'll use Facebook as the big picture look at it. Number one, don't get sucked in. Remember that you don't have to spend all of your day on Facebook. Like some people do. That's what they end up sitting there, and what's happening is that they get out there, they're posting stuff, they're talking about what they have for lunch, they're talking about their kid just threw up, and guess what? Do you want to play Farmville with me? I mean, it's all the goofy stuff that nobody really cares about. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you do need to be there, but it's a matter of stopping and just saying, hey, this is what I'm working on today. It's going to be really cool. And just sharing a little bit about what's going on in your life. Or maybe posting on a question saying, let's say I'm a landscaper, say, what's the biggest problem that you have with keeping your lawns green this year? Now, you and I are in the Portland area, so it's not really a hard thing to do to keep our grass green, but I used to be in Arizona. Now, in Phoenix, it's a whole different creature. You ask that question, and people are going to ask you 50,000 questions on how do we do that, right? So, figure out what's going to be a good fit for you, but just asking a few questions, communicating with a few people. And, if you have to, set a timer. When I first started using social media, I literally had a 30-minute timer sitting on my desk, and I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to somebody, respond to messages, and comment on something. And I did it in that order. And if I ran out of time, when the dinger went off, I was done. It did not matter if I finished all of those things or not. So I limited my time to 30 minutes a day. And when I did that, now I've got a lot more friends. I've got like 35 or 3,300 friends, somewhere in that area. On my Twitter, it's right around the same number. And so it obviously takes me a bit more time. But when you're first starting out, a half an hour is more than enough time. And then throughout the day, if you have the apps on your phone, which is fairly easy to do if you want to install the Facebook app, just go through and look at stuff that people are posting and then just, like it, comment, share, little things like that, things that take you 2 minutes while you're waiting in line to make a bank deposit. I mean, little things like that. And that makes a world of difference. But don't let it overwhelm you. Don't let it suck up your world.
So that's a great tip, just remain in control. Well, I wanted to jump in. I'm really intrigued by, your business model, and a lot of what I talk about here on my shows are, how people can set their businesses up to fit their personalities, but also actually create a lucrative business for themselves. And you've kind of done that. It's a very unusual business model, how you create products. You don't really do a lot of one-on-one services, do you?
I do some, but I don't actually advertise them as much, and that's kind of the killer side to it for me, is that I actually put that as a secondary piece, and the reason is because I don't want to do a lot of one-on-one. It's not that I don't mind it, but there's only so much of me, and
right.
I feel that that's a way that can turn around and really suck a lot of time. And so what I've done is I have 3 levels to our business, and one of them you won't even find on our website right now. We're actually getting ready to actually put it publicly out there, but we haven't done it yet. And what we've done is we created Your Marketing University around a concept of the do-it-yourself, because that's really where my passion is small business entrepreneurs that may not have much of a budget and want to learn how to take control of their marketing and grow their business, because as an entrepreneur, let's face it, marketing is the most critical component to success. Doesn't matter how great your product is and how great of an overall business plan you have, or even how much money you have. If you don't learn how to market properly, you're going to go out of business. And so my goal is to teach entrepreneurs how they can market themselves more effectively, and we do that through training courses. And so I've got a bunch of training courses on the website. We have a few more that I haven't even listed on there yet, that we're working on getting ready to launch. And then we have a second level, and that's when people, that's more when people kind of reach out and they say that they're ready. They're like, okay, I've gone through this program, but I think I need more hand-holding. I need somebody to help me out. And that's where it's the done with you process. And that's where my consulting side comes in, where we are a little bit more one-on-one, but you basically, you're still doing the work, but I'm showing you what to do. I'm giving you the order, and I'm helping you with any pitfalls you have along the way. And then the third piece is what we're getting ready to officially launch. And we've done it for a few clients kind of in the background, but we're really getting ready to push this on a high level, is the done for you side. And
okay.
This is the higher level side, but it's very specific. We are going after people who've been in business for a while. Primarily, they have certain tools in place that shows me that they have a budget to work with, and they're going to appreciate me. As an example, we are primarily working with people who are using Infusionsoft. It's not always the case. We do have some clients that don't. But one thing I have found is if somebody's using Infusionsoft, and basically for those of you that don't know what it is, Infusionsoft is your email management, CRM, and shopping cart system all rolled into one, and it's not cheap. So it's a great system. That's what we use for our own business. But what we do is we've got a few clients that have come through our process that are to that level, and they need somebody just to take it over for them. But because Infusionsoft it's not cheap, it's one of those things, it's an investment, that also shows that somebody's willing to invest in their business and into their success. And so they're not going to nickel and dime me to death.
Right.
And so that's where we're very specific on who we're looking for that purpose.
That's very intriguing, and I just want to take a moment to highlight for our listeners, because so many people, when they first start up their own business, they focus on providing one-to-one services, and many times, it's on an hourly basis, and they focus more on, and many times they will lower their rates in order to get work, and so they're really undercutting themselves. And I love what you've done, because you've flipped it around and made your lower cost or your lower entry, your courses, which you don't have a lot of your time invested in them. You've created them once, and people can just watch them.
hmm And that's the cool thing about it. And I recommend that actually everybody have some kind of education-based course or training. That could be a book, it could be a video, it could be an ebook, or just even an audio program. There's so many different ways to do it. But one of the great things about it is because it's a low entry point type of system. And low entry point is anywhere between, if you've been online for any kind of time, one of the most popular things in the world is a $7 report. Okay? And basically for $7, you get an ebook. It's usually 20, 30 pages, but it's basically information on how to do one thing. Now, just imagine if you were, if you're an artist and you're trying to work with somebody, let's say you're a web designer. Okay? As a web designer, if you have a $7 book that includes the 50 most important things you need to know before hiring a web designer, what ends up happening is, number one, you have the credibility because you wrote this book. Now, the book could be pretty simple. It could be just simple questions and almost like a checklist. The second thing is that people who spend $7 are willing to spend money. Even if it's only $7, the idea is that they actually are willing to whip out their credit card and give you a try. And it's low entry point enough that then what happens is they look at it and go, oh, you know what, this is really good information. I really want to work with her. And so it establishes you as the expert. And the great thing about that combination is that you end up having something that even if you could be, let's say a architect, for like an architect for custom home building. If you are the guy who wrote the book or the girl who wrote the book on it, on how to build your dream home, if it's you that has a book or somebody else who doesn't, who am I going to choose?
Right,
I'm probably going to choose you. And so that's a great way to look at it. And it also, for me, one of the things I love about it is the fact that I know that a lot of solopreneurs they're in that point of being in a tight budget. And my entire goal is to get you out of that point. So if I can sell you something inexpensive in order to get you going, and I even have free things that I give away, hoping to get you to the point to be able to buy that $27 or $47 product. So if I can give you one thing for free to take you, and you take action on it, and you go to the next level, you're like, that was so awesome, we're ready for the next level. Let's spend $47. Okay, now you spent $47. I've given you more amazing stuff to help you take you to the next level. Now you're ready for the next level. Maybe you're ready for that coaching. Maybe you are ready to hire somebody, because my goal is to get you to be in that position where you are ready to hire somebody else. And, of course, to educate you in the process, so when you do go to hire somebody, you can have an intelligent conversation with them and make sure you're hiring the right person, because I can't tell you how many horror stories I've had where people hired marketing companies, social media managers, website designers. I mean, I've with my web design business, quite honestly, I would say probably 2/3 of my business was from somebody having a bad experience someplace else.
That is so true, isn't it? And I love that you share that strategy with our listeners, because so many times, we hear, well, so-and-so has done it this way, and isn't that cool? It's the strategy behind it that people can latch onto and kind of get the thinking behind. And what I want to really drill home for our listeners is that you already invested in your education. You already have the experience and know what to do with all that knowledge. So it's really not that difficult to come up with one of these entry-level products or training programs like you're talking about, Eli. So I love that you kind of share a little bit of that background of how you build really a pathway, and that's really what it is. You've built a pathway for people to follow, kind of little bread that they could follow moving up into your program. And, you're right in saying that you are really you're helping them out. You're helping them every step of the way as they move into that chain of your programs. So I really love sharing that strategy with us.
Well, and if I can share one more thing, because I know there's one thing that's going through people's heads that are listening to this, I can guarantee it because I hear this one all the time, is that especially if you're service-based business, and so you pay, or people pay you for your time, essentially. One of the fears that I see happening all the time is people are afraid of doing the information type product because they feel that if they say, well, if I put together this book or this course on how to do it, let's say I'm a web designer and I put out a course on how to become a web designer, how to build your own website, then people won't hire me. Guess what? That doesn't happen. You're going to have a certain number that will, but those are probably the people that would never actually hire you anyway because they don't have the budget or they don't value your time. What will happen is a lot of people will still buy that program. They'll look at it and they'll still go, you know what, this is awesome. I see the value in it, but I still just don't have time to do this, or I really just don't want to do it, and they're going to come back and hire you anyway. I've had that happen. I've had people who've spent a large chunk of money going through my training programs, and they go, it's awesome, I love it, but I still just don't want to do it. Can I just hire you anyway?
Well, that is such a great point. Thank you for pushing that out for our listeners, because I think that's very true. Many times people focus on the wrong thing, and they think, well, if I sell my time to do this for you, then that'll be the valuable thing. Well, your time really isn't what's, valuable to your listeners or to your clients. It's what you do and how well you do it. That's what's of value.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's something too, is like I'm just going to go back to web design as an example because that's my background, is that even though I put together this amazing course and I am very, very proud of how great this course is, I know that if I could put somebody through that course, they're not going to have all the skills that I have. I mean, I have 18 years and over 200 websites worth of skills. I actually added it up one time and actually added up and figured out that I had personally designed over 200 websites, and that didn't include the websites that I managed, I was project manager for when I had a staff. And so nobody can take a $300 course and learn that 18 years worth of experience. So there's still that next level. And a lot of times people go through the course and then just hire me to come in and tweak it and make it better, and that's okay.
That's so important, and I appreciate you taking that moment, because it's the expertise, really, that all of that energy that you put into not only the book learning, but it's what to do with that book learning. That's what's so important. Yeah,
no, definitely.
I wanted to jump in where I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about this new book you've released. And I want to make sure that we also give kudos to your business partner, Cindy Clemens. She helped you with this book. It's called Marketing Tidbits, 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Grow Your Business. Let's talk about that. Why did you decide to write this book? How did it come about?
This book was put together in the concept. Cindy and I are partners. We've been partners forever. And in our business, I'm the public guy. I'm the one that does the speaking and creates the training programs and stuff. She has stage fright, so she doesn't like to get in front of an audience. But she works out really well because she's got a ton of knowledge. She does a lot of the back end stuff. It's so funny because originally I was the web designer. I grew that business. And then when we started this business, she actually came to work with me and started doing some basic stuff. And when we started using WordPress as our platform to work with, she really fell in love with it. And so she does all the back-end stuff. I rarely touch our websites anymore, which is great for me because I don't want to, but she does all the back-end technical stuff. I do the front-end speaking and doing shows like this and things like that. And so we decided to write this book. And for me personally, we talk about how marketing for most small business entrepreneurs, for most solopreneurs, tends to be that scary, daunting thing. I mean, when you think of marketing, what words come to mind? Sometimes it's sleazy, sometimes it's pushy, salesy, sometimes it's black magic and voodoo. I mean, I've had all of those words when I've asked people what they think of marketing. And we have this thing where this idea, and it's put out there by a lot of marketers, that marketing has to be expensive, complicated, and hard. And that's why you have to hire somebody. Well, I disagree with that. And so my whole purpose of this book was to put together super easy, simple things that you can do to market yourself, because everything counts. No matter what you do in your business, every little detail counts. And these are a lot of the little details that will go a long way for your business. But nothing in this costs you I think the most expensive thing you'd have to do in this entire book is maybe spend $20 on a name badge. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're talking about is, where, why you should have a name badge if you're networking, or, how to have a conversation with somebody properly and make it about them instead of about you, because we tend to go into pitch mode, and people don't want to hear pitch mode.
Right.
They want to hear, how can I help you, and are you interested in me? And little things like that. And so the chapters of the book, there's 50 of them, because there are 50 quick and easy ways to grow your business. So the idea is that you can pick the book up. Doesn't matter what chapter you read. You don't have to read it in any kind of specific order. Read a chapter. There's a graphic at the beginning that's like a 1 to 2 sentence recap type of thing. That's basically, if you remember that one point, read the chapter, you're going to be good to go, and you can get out and take action on that. And
so let me ask you, you said you got 50 tips in here. Out of all of the, 30 years of experience, what made you decide on these 50 tips that you put in the book?
These are the things that come to mind. That stand out above everything else. These are the things that are they're foundational, very simple things. They're things that we see all the time. Right. I've got my book right here, so I'm going to read one of them. It's marketing tip number 3. When networking, remember to follow up after the event is more important than the event itself. Okay, you see how simple that is, and there's a whole chapter that goes with it. It's and it's only the whole chapter's 2 pages, but you can read the whole thing. Goes into a lot more detail. But you remember, okay, if I'm out networking, let's say I'm going to a business mixer or a chamber event or whatever, even a big conference. I mean, sometimes we go to those conferences that have 2,000-3,000 people, right? So if you're meeting somebody, you're not going to make the sale right there. You want to build a relationship knowing that you have to follow up. You may spend 5 minutes with somebody today, but that 5 minutes you spend tomorrow after the event is what counts. And that's really the gist of what that point means.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, and I also love you gave a little tidbit just a second ago about having your own name badge instead of one of those goofy sort of, stick-on ones.
Mm-hmm. The stick-on ones that never actually stay.
Right. Or that you forget to take off in the supermarket or something. But, what that says to me is it kind of goes into your personal branding and maybe stepping it up a notch.
Yeah, it does. And it is one of the things to keep in mind with that, too, is that it is literally everything you do is branding. If you want to talk about the term branding, branding is anything and everything you do to build your reputation. That is, in a quick and dirty concept, that is what branding is. And that's everything from how you dress, how you shake hands, how you look somebody in the eye, to the name badge you wear, to when you say, I'm going to shoot you this email when I get home, that you actually do it. It has nothing to do with your logo. Your logo is an extension of your branding, but your branding is the image you portray around your building of your relationships, or your reputation, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to kind of clarify for our listeners, because a lot of them have, dropped out of corporate America and they sat in the cube and wore the gray flannel suit, and for them in their mind, that's kind of being the cookie cutter branding. I love what you're saying. It's not really, you don't have to fit into anybody else's mold. Create your own mold, but be true to it. Mm-hmm. And that's your brand.
And definitely, and just be aware of that, because there's also certain things, like as an example, years ago, being that I was from the rock and roll world, my hair was down to my waist. And I really did enjoy that, because I am an old school rocker, right? So, but I did realize that when I went into building websites and building websites for corporations, I knew that wasn't going to work. People were actually not buying from me because my hair was long. As silly as it is, as much as I disagree with it, it just wasn't doing its thing. And I was like, okay, I've got to make a decision. And you have to, there's a certain point of being authentic to yourself, which I totally agree with, but there is a point of, is this helping me or is this hurting me? and being realistic as well. And that is part of your brand as well. And you just need to kind of keep that in mind. I mean, I know some people that say, hey, I'm just a T-shirts and jeans kind of guy, and so am I. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, I may be in a T-shirt and jeans, but I've got a nice jacket on too.
Right. That's a great to bring out is that you need to know who your clients are, and you need to be one of them.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So really, you're creating relationships.
Yeah. But the whole thing, the biggest thing with the book is it's all about how you can realize that marketing doesn't have to be complicated or scary. It's just little simple things you do every single day that make a huge difference. But they're little simple things. And that's what my goal is.
A lot of the overwhelm out of the concept of marketing. Let me ask one question that I know I've heard from people that are just kind of frustrated, and that is all the noise out there online anymore. So how do you take these really common sense tidbits in your book, it's Marketing Tidbits, how do you take those tidbits and deal with all that noise and clutter online? Do you have like one little tidbit on that, or what's your thought?
The key with it is to figure out where does my audience hang out and be a friend to them. When you do that, when it comes to online stuff, write your articles and do videos and all that kind of stuff. You've got to put it out there. Obviously, there's some basics, like, do some keyword research. What are people searching on, things like that. But that is actually secondary. Do the basics, and then you go through and it's like, okay, where do my fans hang out? Where does my audience hang out? And you hang out with them, and you answer questions, and you offer advice, and you become the expert, the go-to person, the helpful person for them. One of the things that it always is a lot of fun, because when I first started, this wasn't as intentional as it is now. But when I first started, I was always helping people. People would say, hey, I've got this question about my computer. Now, I'm not a computer guy. I mean, I used to be, but I've gotten out of it. Now I have a hard time reloading my own computer. But people ask me questions like, oh, I got this thing with the blue screen, and I don't know what to do with it. And I would say, well, go try this and this. Because that was out of the experience I did have. I wasn't the expert. I wasn't saying I was the expert. I was just giving them basic advice, and I said, if that doesn't work, here's a number to a friend of mine who is a computer tech. He can take care of you. But try those things first. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, it amazes me how much amazing feedback and how that helped my reputation just by being a helpful person. And so when it comes to marketing your business, that's what it really boils down to, is how are you adding value and how are you helping people? If you keep those things in mind, I mean, this is one of my favorite questions, and if you can get to the habit of asking this question when you wake up first thing every single day, your world will change. And it's the simplest question in the world. Who am I going to help today?
I love that. It really fits in well with your creating a relationship kind of concept that you kicked off today's show with.
Yes, and I love it so much, and really the great thing is that's marketing. That's really all it is. It's building relationships with people. It's helping them and adding value to their lives. And when you think of marketing like that, and don't worry about all the tools that are out there and getting overwhelmed with what the latest, greatest social media garbage is, because it happens. It's going to happen. Right now, Facebook is king. Tomorrow, something may change. Google Plus may finally take hold the way they think it's going to, and I don't know if it's going to or not, but Google Plus is another one that's on the big rise, and there's a lot of jumping on board. There's a lot of people that are afraid of it, and to be perfectly honest, even as a geek, I have a hard time navigating it sometimes. So I don't know that it's going to. But here's the deal. I'm not worried about it. I don't care if Google Plus becomes the next big monster thing tomorrow or something else comes along. I just know that I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time learning the basic mechanics of whatever software that is, but the principles, adding value to people's lives, reaching out and helping them, offering to bring them into the fold of my tribe, those simple little things, no matter what tool it is, if I stick with those principles first and foremost, I'll I'll be good to go.
Well, and
that's
I love
what I
that
want you to think about.
You made that comment about bringing people into your tribe or, connecting with people, because I really think people are really, especially solos, but even small businesses are really yearning kind of for a community where they can kind of come in and feel that authenticity and like they're doing business with people that they can trust. We're getting towards the end of our hour. Let me ask you, how can people get their hands on a copy of your book? I know you're doing it tomorrow in the Portland area.
Yes, we are, as of the time of this recording, we're doing a live book signing on Wednesday the 5th. And so that, obviously, because this show is going to air on the 7th, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you have some other book signings planned out, or what?
I don't have them signed up as far as book signings go quite yet. We'll definitely be able to get you that information when we do get another one. But we do have, as of the day that this is going live, so on the 7th, this Friday, we are actually doing a Kindle 99-cent sale. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that is a way that if you're a Kindle person, you like the digital copies, you'll be able to pick it up for 99 cents as opposed to the $5.99 regular price. And then, of course, if you happen to be in the Portland area and you want to get a signed copy of the book as opposed to just buying it off of Amazon, I appreciate it either way. Reach out to me. We can, we'll figure out a way to hook up and, maybe get a cup of coffee and I'll bring a book out to you. We can do that. That's not a problem because I have fun with that. I mean, I'm a social guy. And that's a big thing with this, too, is that when, as a solopreneur, be social, have fun, meet people. The more connections you can have and the more people you can meet, the more fun life is.
Yeah, I love that idea, that concept. It is business, but it's personal, too.
Yeah. So let me, so I don't forget, because I did get a little bit of a sidetrack there. The link to go get the book, it's really easy. You can get it on Amazon, but I do have a quick link on it to make it easier for anybody who's just listening. It's ymubooks.com/get. YMU, like Your Marketing University, books.com/get. And that'll forward right over to the Amazon page, but I know that it's a little bit easier than going to Amazon and searching for it and all that kind of stuff. And I do appreciate it. Anybody who wants to pick up the book, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, all that kind of stuff. That really means the world to me. Hopefully you find a lot of value in it. And one thing I do want to put out there, if anybody wants to, if you feel free to search for me in the social media world, if you are out there, feel free to connect with me. I love to make connections. I love to meet new people, and definitely let me know that you heard about me on the show, because then that way I can know where you came from, and let's start a conversation. Let's have some fun.
Well, excellent. And listeners, if you're listening, I would encourage that, because Ely, you're a kick to chat with and to get to know, especially if you're in the Portland area. So I want to remind our listeners they can check out your marketinguniversity.com if they want to learn about your tutorials or your training programs, and they can find your book, Marketing Tidbits: 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Grow Your Business, at ymubooks.com/get. Is that right?
Correct.
Excellent. Well, Ely, this has been so much fun today. We could chat forever.
I know, we could. We've had a couple of good conversations.
But this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I had a blast. It's so much fun. Anytime you ever want me to come back, just let me know, because I love doing this kind of stuff. Excellent.
I will do. And you get out there and enjoy selling this book, and good luck with the book.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, great. And for Solo Pro Radio, I'm going to say bye-bye for now.